Hey guys, Salty Will, and I've been playing the Amazon since Dawn of the Hunt League has started. I've experimented quite a bit, but I've learned a lot in the process. So I have Barrage, Whirling Slash, and then I have my Twisters. First of all, you want to get your Barrage going. Empowers your next attack. Get 3 spins in. Shoot. Spinning. Shoot. Spin again. Barrage. Shoot. And that's typically your build right there. There's other skills you can use, but the main thing is getting your Barrage, Whirling Slash, get your Whirlwinds going, and then shoot your Twisters to multiply it. The main thing that we're going to go over is typically most Amazon trees I've seen beeline it all the way down these nodes, all the way down to the Spear. You're going to want everything from Spear because it gives you all your damage up front at least. Really important skill to take though is Acceleration right here. 10% skill speed and maximum movement speed right here. Skill speed, skill speed. And a key part of your build is going to be Falcon Dive. We'll go into that more later, but you're going to have really, really high accuracy with this build. And that's going to give you really fast speed for your Whirling Slash, which will generate your 3 Whirlwinds, which are then used to generate the Twisters you want to make off. And then what you need is Bleed Chance. So Bleed Chance is you're going to map all the way over here. It's kind of far away. You get 5% Bleed Chance right there. You get 5 right here. 5 right here and 10 right there. So you get a 25% bleeding chance right there. And you're going to fill up the skills. You get your damage nodes right here, just based off your block chance. I'm using a shield that has 35% block chance, so that's 35% increased damage. Maybe you just want to get your bleeding up a little bit too, and you get them on your gems and so forth, and your rings. This one gives you some damage right here, and this gives you 20% increase ailments right here. Right here, this gives you your 250 accuracy against bleeding enemies, which then gives you more damage because it does damage faster, and you're always attacking bleeding enemies anyways, so you get more accuracy. Then you're going to get these bleeding nodes over here. And this one's really important because you get 30% crit chance against bleeding enemies, and 20% chance to aggravate bleeding on targets that you hit with attacks. The Anointment I have right here, Internal Bleeding, gives me 20% chance to aggravate bleeding targets and power attacks, which I'm using Barrage all the time, so I get power attacks. And I get 30% increased damage when I'm using my power attacks. So that's a good skill to anoint, and it's relatively cheap to anoint. So that covers the bleeding side of things and some damage. Accuracy nodes over here, and then what you want to do with Twister eventually, once you get your damage and stuff built up, you don't need this till you start clearing maps. But you're going to want Duration of Twister, which you can find over here. So you get the speed, recovery rate. That's good for your Barrage. And you got your duration for Twister, 15%. You go all the way up here. Then you got the duration right here, 8%, 8%, 16%. So fantastic. You got a lot of duration. That gives me the about 6.5 second duration of the Twister. And then you're going to want speed because you get the long duration of Twister. But you also want your Twisters to shoot far off because you're glass cannon, right? So this is going to give you 8%, 8%, and 15% speed. Then you're also going to get more speed over here, 8% speed. Perfect. So now you get really fast Twisters, and you also get they last a long time. Next few levels I need to gain, I need to get my damage up against rares. Because rares are the ones that the whites and blues are getting wiped out pretty much instantly. If they're not wiped out in the first hit, then the bleeding takes care of them, right? This will give me 25% damage against uniques and rares. It also makes the ailments proc a lot easier. So that's 2 more levels from now, 93. Again, I don't have too many levels to play with, so it's just a preference at this point. But Giant Slayer would definitely be one I want to get up there too. So the main skills you care about are Barrage, Twister, Whirling Slash. And since Whirling Slash is your main skill that you're using, that's the one we keep spinning, your melee, you're not using this for damage. You're using this to prime up your Twister, right? So the reason why we have that, we have extra attack speed on there. Then we have extra accuracy on there. That is used just to get the speed up of the Whirling Slash, and a magnified effect. Don't really care about hitting enemies. If I'm close enough and I want to hit them, this gives me more range to hit them. And the only reason why that matters is going this route right here is you get 30% increased damage if you hit someone with melee recently. But ultimately you don't want to be melee, but if you are, you might as well hit him with the Whirling Slash, then use your Twister. The accuracy rating is 23,244, right? We don't care about anything else on there except for speed. So you get 3.42 attacks per second. And the main reason that really matters is you get to 1 second essentially, or a little bit less than a second, you primed up your third attack right there. which then gives you your whirlwind stage. I don't know if it explains it right there, but let's go ahead and right here. Form whirlwind. It's got 3 stages. So you need to do it 3 times to get the 3rd stage, right? And then if you go to Twister right here, Twister duration by default is 3 seconds. We're currently at 6.5 seconds. And consuming whirlwind, which the whirling slash makes, creates additional Twister and does 80% more damage per whirling stage. So it's 80, that's 240% more damage than what it says right here, because you have 3 stages of it. And then also, elemental twisters gain 50% damage corresponding type. So you're going to get extra fire damage here too, which gives you ignites. The twister right here is, the default, as it says, 3 seconds duration. Right now I have it 6.59 seconds duration. Speed modifier is 95%. These 2 I need to work on still to get these higher. There's a spear that gives you innate projectile speed, which would help this go up even higher. And twister duration is, I can anoint something that gives you 25% increased duration. And that'll get me to probably 7.5 seconds, almost 8 seconds twister duration. And that's important. So you have 40% skill duration, projectile speed. These help you get the twisters last longer and go really far. Or if they're not going far, they bounce off walls constantly. Half just gives you more damage. And so I had salvo on the beginning. And typically you don't need salvo with this if you have the duration and speed really high. Doesn't mean you can't take it. It's still fine, but you're gonna get less damage with this because you can take off with damage, to do it. So if you get your damage high enough, just put this back on. Like if you're clearing maps instantly and all that, keep this on. The only thing to keep in mind with salvo though is it makes your twisters go in an unpredictable manner. Again, you have quite a few of them. But the reason why I took this one off was it takes 6 seconds to get the 3 extra seals. Each seal gives you 2 additional projectiles per seal, right? So 3 seals gives you 6 twisters, right? And it takes 2 seconds to get another seal. So I'm attacking every second, essentially. So I'm only benefiting from 2 additional projectiles every 2 uses, essentially. So I'm not maximizing on this. Now, if I don't attack for a while, I'm going to have a really big attack. But if I constantly shoot in twisters, I don't need salvo, right? So it's a balancing act of, it helps out quite a bit if you're not constantly shooting. If you get your attack speed up really high, and you have your twisters duration and all that stuff, you don't necessarily need it. But it's still a skill I'm going to be playing around with. And then scatter shot, if you get your damage high enough, you can take this and just help ensure that you're clearing the maps really quickly. But you're losing so much damage right here. Because you get attack speed down and 35% less damage. So I take that off, it just goes up like crazy, right? So that's not something I typically take on there. Let's go ahead and show the skills I take instead, though. So take off scatter shot, take off salvo, add in deliberation, so 23,000, and then you're going to add long shot right there, which will give you another 40%. Doesn't show you the damage increase right there. That's where I have to go into path of building. So anyways, that's what I do for twister. Again, duration I have it's 6.59 seconds. Default is 3 seconds. Now another thing to help with your accuracy rating you want to have, Herald Blood, is you want to have 30% increased accuracy rating while skill is active. So take this off right here. You'll see my accuracy just dropped quite a bit. Right there. So you want to keep that up. So the twister is actually 16,000 really, or 15,500. Spear throw is not your main attack. Twister is. But if you already have a bunch of twisters out, like let's say for example you find a rare monster, unique, or boss, I'll throw a few spear throws in there. Reason being is you get extra critical hits with this because the enemies are blinded from your twister. Put some fire damage on there because I'm already doing fire damage. Put some poison on there because there's only so many ranged gems you can take, so I put poison on there. The damage is pretty good on here, so just adding poison on it helps out quite a bit. Again, I just added poison to my basic twister right now, but this one will just proc very easily. Again, so many gems you can take. If you ever fight like a rare monster in a map, you might as well have it chained to additional enemies. And then Impale. I didn't take this one until recently. but it adds more damage to skill. So if I'm going to impale with this, I might then do like my ultimate attack, the Spear Solaris, or if I didn't do my Twister again after this, I'll just do more damage. Because impale says they get pre-mitigation damage added to hit, essentially. So that might trigger a bigger bleed, ignition, or whatever it is. So that's pretty good. Now, barrage, when he remains skills, which I probably should have gone over earlier, gives you 2 extra twisters, essentially. And that might get repeats, so it might be 4 different twisters or whatever it is, but it gives you more twisters. The repeats, they call it, do less damage, but you get more twisters out there, so that's fine. I'm not generating frenzy charges with my build, because I'm not using lightning or any skills that do that. But you still get the extra twisters from it, so it's worth taking, of course. And it says time gets added onto it, whatever, it lasts for a 5-second debuff. The buff lasts for 5 seconds. But if you see mine, the buff lasts longer than that. 7.5 seconds. Almost 8 seconds, right? So you go just prime the barrage before you get in the fight. And it's going to last 8 seconds instead of 5 because I have the extra duration on. And so the skills I take on here is cooldown recovery rate slow, because you want to constantly use this as much as you can. You get 15% more damage in powered attacks. Culling Strike, you're constantly hitting people with twisters over and over and over again. So there's not really much more you can put on here. So Culling Strike just means you kill them quicker. Cast speed. So cast speed right now is at 0.47 seconds. So you want to constantly use it. So you want to have faster cooldown, faster cast speed. I don't really have much mana regeneration right now. So I put inspiration on there. So it just costs less, right? So I'm spamming this all the time. Just make it cost less mana, right? Spill Solaris is something I just recently took. The damage per second is really low because it takes a while to wind up. But this is something I typically do when I stun the boss. And I have a skill that stuns it, but I'll explain in a second. Right now I have it does more elemental damage because it's fire damage. Penetrates fire resistance. Great. The supported skill causes fire exposure for 8 seconds. Guy target. So when I do rare, typically bosses only, but when I do boss or unique enemy, is I stun them, use the Solaris thing, then I start using my twisters again, and then it reduces their fire resistance, so it means my twisters do even more damage after I use this skill. And then Rake, I don't typically use that much at all anymore. I still include it in case I get really up close to a bunch of monsters, but I mainly use this because it will proc a really high magnitude bleed attack. So I could use this against a boss sometimes to get the extra magnitude bleed, but typically I'm not using it much. But for the time being, what I have on there is just more melee damage. Attack speed doesn't really matter for this one. More attack damage if you're up close. More physical damage because you don't care about any of the elements because it's bleed typical skill. And then 75% more magnitude bleeding with this. It takes the damage down, but adds a lot more bleed to it, essentially. Herald of Blood. It doesn't cause bleeding anyways. So just more crystals means more damage after triggers. And I got regeneration life at the moment. Probably put something else in there. Life regeneration. Like, I don't have much maximum life, so that's not really relevant. Probably put a potion thing in there, but I don't have much spirit to play with. Now, Bloodhound Mark is your key skill you want to use against rares or bosses. Typically, you won't need it on a rare, but if a rare has more life, whatever, is a little hard. Proc it on them. This will cause stun, too. At least 5% heavy stun build up from blood loss. 300% blood loss. That's where magnitude of blood comes in handy. And you're doing a lot of bleed anyways. So when you fight bosses, you stun them relatively quickly. You need 20 glory, stun a big boss, then you can see this, right? So when you fight the boss, you usually typically charge up your 3 whirling slashes, get that ready for the boss. You stand by your minion, which triggers the flame. When the boss fight starts, you do Bloodhound Mark, then you shoot your twisters off, get the blood stuff going on. And then do a few twisters, do a few shots of your arrows, and then they're going to be stunned in 2 seconds. Overpower, I don't know how this necessarily works with it, but it says 50% more stun buildup. And break armor, I don't know if this also works with it, but inherently this one, you break armor when you have this. That's what I have on it at the moment. I'm not quite sure else what I'd put on Bloodhound's Mark, that's why I haven't built these ones up yet. Blood Hunt, it's a finisher move. I haven't built it up yet, so I need to add more damage to it, but this is my primary skill. I use it when the boss is almost dead, or when they're in like the open weakness with my passive tree. But it does more damage against bleeding enemies. You always attack someone's own bleeding with this. It's a finisher move, so they'll be on low life when you do this. You don't care about area damage because you're just attacking one enemy. So the key part to get the flame on my build is my companion. So fire explosions can do this. The problem with fire explosions, it's kind of slow. It makes big circle AoE fire damage. Usually ignites the ground. Anytime you have ignite ground, you get your whirling slash over it. you pick up the flame to a whirling slash, and when you shoot your twisters, they get the fire on it. But Trail of Fire is what you need on your minion. Again, it's not required, but that makes it super reliable to have the fire on your projectiles. And then break armor is just a bonus. I'm already breaking armor a lot of times, but those are good. But the periodic fire, I'll show you in the showcase. That's what you need. You're always gonna fire damage. So that's typically what I have right there. And let's go back to twisters again. So ailment chance says 58% bleeding on hit. That does not include the 10% chance of bleeding I have from the ring. Also, let's go ahead and refund it right now. I'm gonna add these right here. So I'm gonna drop down my tornado duration, but now it's gonna have my twister bleed chance. It's gonna go up to 68%, but this calculation does not include the 20% chance ailments right there. You want to have your bleed at least 70, 80, 90%. When I get this giant slayer over here, I'll also get another 20% chance to inflict ailments. So rares, them will always have bleeding on them too. You gotta look at path ability. It's a little complicated, but it shows you different aspects of it. And it has other calculations here that are not shown right there. But it's typically about 80%. And then let's go ahead and go to gems right now. I have 3 gem locations, 1, 2, 3. And then so I need to get my bleeding high. I got bleed chance and magnitude are what you're looking for. Sun build up is probably good against bossing with the mark I showed you. Life regeneration, my life's so low, I'm not even sure I need that at the moment. But I need to get my life situation fixed a little bit. But right now, as I die relatively quickly, so I don't know if I need life regeneration. Chance to ignite is good because I'm using the flame attack. So any chance to ignite is good. Bleeding duration, inflict bleeding. Yeah, bleeding duration is great. Chance and that. Again, these aren't like top tier gems. So the duration can go up to 10%. Ignite can go to 20%. Magnitude bleeding 15 and bleed chance 7%. And I don't need more bleed than I have right now. It's working pretty good. This jewel could easily be replaced, but the main thing it has right now is accuracy rating, attack speed, and critical damage bonus, which adds quite a bit of damage. But that can be swapped out with either more base poison. It can be swapped out with a unique gem that like anoint skills, which I'd probably want to do instead. And then talking about anointments, let's go ahead and that passive tree is I anointed internal bleeding onto my amulet because it gives me 30% increased damage because I'm always using my barrage. Pretty much almost all my attacks have barrage on it. And I got 20% chance to aggravate bleeding on attacks you do in power attacks. So I got 20% there. I'm almost critting all the time. That's 20%. So let's say roughly on the conservative side, about 30% chance to cause aggravate bleeding with attacks. So let's go ahead and look at my equipment. Right now, as you see, this is not the best, most strong spear at the moment, but it's got projectile skills on it, which is great. I got critical hit chance, which then makes all your critical hit chances go up for everything on there. Accuracy rating, again, that's the most important thing on there, right? That damage, accuracy, and all that. That's where I get my damage from. I did some calculations last night. If I get like a higher powered spear, of course, like, 50% increased damage instead of that, and it has 2 accuracy things on it and like 600 something, I'll be doing about 70% more damage I'm doing right now. So this is a 1 div spear. You could probably buy one of these for 20 to 30, 40 exalt now. They've gone down a little bit. But to get a really good spear that would crank my build, you need 5 to 7 div. Not required for it, but the more damage I do, the more I can play around with my skill set right here too. Because I'm at 91, I don't have so many skills to play with. And if I do a lot more damage, I can put scatter shot on for mapping, take that off for bosses, right? And then just that way I'm just constantly hidden from all directions with twisters. Gloves, nothing fancy here. These are all pretty cheap. But I had accuracy rating on there. Belt, just had resistances on there, so nothing's shown there. Movement speed, resistances. I had a chest piece on here, armor based, because I'm mixing up my armor and my evasion. I was going to do the passive where I had double evasion from the equipment, and that would have done half the evasion for the chest piece. That's why I had armor there. But again, my armor and evasion is not the perfect, but if I do get hit, I don't want to die instantly, so I need some armor. I got that. And then so what I could do with some of these other things is start adding accuracy on there, because that says 19% increased critical hit chance. If I get the extra accuracy, that also adds critical hit chance. So, but critical hit chance, accuracy, critical hit damage, those are all things you'd want on there, along with your resistances. This right here, I don't really, much to say about this one, except we got critical hit chance and all that, element resistance. But I need an amulet that either gives me more spirit But the main thing I need right now is projectile plus 3 projectiles on my amulet, and then accuracy too. Those are the two things I want to look for. Now, what made me go so much high in accuracy this past week is I found this thing right here. Accuracy rating is doubled, so you get double accuracy rating, get really fast attack speed. That's how you get the constant twisters off quite a bit. This one right here too was not too expensive. It was like 10, 20 exalts, and this gives you 20% chance to inflict bleeding on hit. 26% increased magnitude of bleeding when you inflict. So, and it gives you more damage too. And again, you can get better versions of this one, but it's good enough, right? I get my percent chance to hit and a constant magnitude. Good. Where's my lady? Where's my lady? Where's my lady? There she is. Okay. This first hit just kills me, which is really bad. Alright, got him. Woohoo! Whirling slash, line of fire, you know there's a bad guy nearby. Okay, there you go. And you don't have to get your barrage off every time, but that will definitely give you better hits. And then I just hit off the wall a little bit like that, bounce it around. And you just keep shooting around. Sometimes your minion dies, and they'll come back. But you'll have your flame shot most of the time. That's where the magnitude skills come in play. There's quite a few magnitude skills that affect twister damage, like the flames, and also affect the poison. They'll also affect bleeding.